trying out a new opening there. Is there a history to that track?
Yes, a friend of mine plays a Indian instrument called the gamelan.
Ooh.
If you look it up, you'll see that it, generally speaking, takes up an entire room.
Okay.
It's all kinds of bangs and clings and bangs and things like. And we were doing something, and I was playing the guitar and all that stuff. And she's like, "Let me play the gamelan," and she just started banging on the gamelan. And I realized, you know what? No matter how you hit a gamelan, it sounds pretty good.
Wow.
So you just hit it anywhere, hit it anytime.
Nice.
And I'll keep up. It's kind of fun. I dig that thing. How do you say? I'm looking at Deadpool 2. You know,
Yeah.
coming up.
Yeah.
And
Which is fun.
Oh, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. To me, I love what I love about it is Domino. Domino is my favorite character.
She is so sensational.
I think her name is Zazie Beetz.
She is
the actress.
She steals the movie from him. She steals the movie, and we won't give anything away, but it is her superpower that is a riot when it is first introduced.
Yeah.
Because you're laughing, you're like, whatever. That sound. And it turns out it's a thing.
Oh, it's the best superpower you could possibly have
in the world. No, it's because the setup is so great and the payoff is so great, and it's just whoever thought that up. Is she even a character from the comics, or did they just make her up for the movie?
To be honest, I have no idea. I shouldn't say that, but she is.
She is.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's all right. We're transparent here on
that's my editor, Johnny. Who does a lot of work for me?
Oh, good.
Giving me a call. She's a regular on ATL. Donald Glover's show.
That I knew.
Plays his on again, off again, sort of girlfriend on that show, which is where I know her from mostly. But she's just fantastic in this movie.
Good.
You know, a lot of people are fantastic in that movie. It's a really, really fun movie.
It is, and it's clearly they timed it because this is Fox. You know, this is one of Fox's X-Men related Marvel franchises that they get to keep doing as long as they keep doing them, and so there's some very cute little sideways digs at Infinity War because Josh Brolin's in both of them. Yeah. So it's
and Logan and
neat
movie.
They have a lot of fun with it. So Tim, Wade Major, got all the answers to the Oppo situation. I worked it out. So I talked to our longtime guy over there who has been so good to us over the years, and here is the interesting story. Folks, you are going to hear it now for the first time. Nobody else has the down low on this. Not the digital bits, not Blu-ray.com, nobody. I've talked to them. I got the whole lowdown. And it goes like this. A few years ago, sales of disc players were starting to plateau and even drop. So the whole thing was changing a few years ago as people were moving to OTT and streaming and all this other stuff. So along with the drop in DVD sales went a drop in DVD player sales. So the only thing still working there is Blu-ray, and then of course 4K Blu-ray, UHD Blu-ray is the next level, which is a very boutique right now. There are only a handful of companies that are making 4K players, and they aren't selling a ton of them because people who already have Blu-ray players or invested in Blu-ray really don't see the point. There aren't enough titles, and we got 3 amazing ones today, including a giveaway. Just like last week, we did a giveaway of the 4K for Private Ryan. So Oppo saw basically the writing on the wall and tried to introduce a whole lot of new products that were not related exclusively to disc players, which included, these really cool studio headphones and other technology. They were trying to branch out into other technologies, none of which particularly really caught on to the degree that it needed to in order to replace what was their core business, which is player sales.
Those players, yeah.
I mean, they make players. They're not like Sony. They're not like Panasonic. They're not like Samsung or LG, where they make
washers and dryers
and televisions and everything else. They make players. That's all they make. So they saw the writing on the wall, started to develop a bunch of other products, and those didn't really catch fire. And so what the assessment now is, okay, we have. We're gonna pull the plug while we still have a pile of cash. The disc player sales are not going to increase again. There's not going to be a new holy grail. 4K is not going to save us. So we're going to suspend all development. We're going to suspend all manufacture. We're not going to do this anymore. We have a pile of cash in the bank, And for the time being, we're going to dedicate that cash to supporting the players and the users that we have, our installed user base. We're going to support them. We're going to support those players. We have spare parts. We're gonna basically make this right for the people who've been relying on us, as opposed to just saying goodbye, we're done. We want the warranties to be valid. We want people to be able to repair and support these units. So we're going to pour our resources into making sure that we're doing right by people who currently own players.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, we're also going to take that time to rethink who we are as a company and reinvent ourselves. And in a year or 2 or 3, we will come out of it as a different company focused on something else.
Mm-hmm.
So Oppo will become a different company eventually. The company's not in danger of going away. They have a lot of cash reserves. And we are all, those of us who own players, are going to be the beneficiaries of those cash reserves for the time being, while they sort of figure out a new way to go forward. They're a technology company. They'll come up with something. I thought that was interesting, right? We're gonna turn ourselves into something else.
And who knows what that will be?
Who knows
what medium it will be? Look, they don't want to end up being like all those laser disc companies, all those
exactly,
or Betamax.
Yes, right.
That's no good.
That's no good.
So forethought is what they're doing.
Yeah, which I think is interesting. I've never heard of that before. So my next question to him was, well, that's great. So I love that. Is this Happy Texas or is it something else?
What is that?
This movie.
We're watching movies in the background.
Anyway.
That might be the movies.
Oh yeah. No, you're right. It is. It looked like Happy Texas for a moment. The Chain Gang.
48 hours.
There you go.
48 hours.
Fantastic.
The break from 48 hours.
Yeah, there's James Remar. Back when he was just the most evil. I guess he still is. So anyway, I associate chain gangs with Happy Texas. Isn't that crazy?
Which is funny. Yeah.
Which is not the original opening to the movie.
No,
they reshot that. Anyway, enough with dumb stories. So here's the other thing. My next question to him was, okay, so what's going to happen then to the technology eventually? I mean, it's great technology. You're not going to make any more players, but they're still the best players out there. And he said, well, we are in talks with suitors who want to buy our disc player technology.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something they can talk about. There are no deals yet. They're just talking to people. So the implication is that that when Oppo reinvented itself as something else, and when they stopped supporting the players, somebody else is going to inherit their player technology. And that's not, for example, when Pioneer stopped making Elite televisions, they sold it to Sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And Sharp started distributing the Elite series. So these technologies don't go away. Somebody will buy it.
And then, of course, when you think about it in terms of base technology, what their technology is, right? The technology, which they were using to make 4K disc players, right? Mm-hmm. The technology is actually just laser reading and writing technology.
Yeah.
The base technology is about lasers.
Yeah.
And what lasers can do.
Yeah.
Which means that it really doesn't have to have anything whatsoever to do with movies. That fundamental technology might be used in satellites.
Oh yeah.
Or particularly space-based satellites or directional. Who knows?
I mean, the technology inside a disc player is shockingly simple.
Yeah.
Apart from all the bells and whistles that people associate with it, it's really just a chip and a laser.
And a laser, yeah.
And it's just about how you program that chip to interpret and interpolate the data that the laser feeds through it. Yeah, that's it.
That's
really,
yeah. The more focused your your laser, the more densely packed the information on whatever the medium is. That's all that's really that's going on.
So with that, we're going to, there's really no other great news coming. There's stuff coming out of Cannes. There's some interesting news coming out of Cannes. Lars.
who's back who's at least there after, when
7
did they
years.
Kick him out?
It was 7 years. 7 years ago when he, I'm sorry.
He's not there for 10 minutes and he's already screwing up.
Lars von Trier is out of his mind. He's really out of his mind. I liked his first couple of films, and then he just went south. Dogma and all the rest of the stuff was insane. And Nymphomaniac and Antichrist and
that was tough.
The famous Dogville story when the story when Russell Crowe went to visit Nicole Kidman on the set of Dogville.
The set of Dogville, which was just a big black stage with tape. Chalk or tape something around it. But tell the story.
Well, Russell Crowe went to visit her, and he thought, "Oh, this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna go see what Lars von Trier is doing with Nicole," and because they're friends, going all the way back to Australia. Before either of them were stars, they were pals. And Crow opens, he walks onto the set and he just sees nothing and people in costumes. And the first words out of his mouth in that sweet New Zealand Aussie accent of his was, "What the bleep is going on here?"
Oh.
And if you've met Russell Crowe, you understand that that's him being charming.
Oh yeah.
That's just the way that
Can
he
you
is.
imagine? Can you imagine Master and Commander being directed by Lars von Trier on a stage with
He
tape,
would not survive.
and
Crowe would have
Russell
strangled
with
him.
nothing but the hat.
Russ would have strangled him. And I'll talk.
But that's con.
And we'll talk more about Russ later because it relates
Mm.
to something. But anyway, yeah, the thing that I'm really keyed on, the house that Jack built, his serial killer movie, apparently is just gory and grotesque and horrible and like art house giallo. But
yeah. Although I must say that at this point, 20 plus years hence,
yeah,
it does sort of surprise me that people keep getting surprised. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's Lars. Why are we? Of course it is.
Look, 7 years ago he got himself banned for saying
that Hitler thing.
Well, he was saying like I can empathize with Hitler. I'm a little bit Nazi. He had all these dumb things. And it just Justin wrote a really great piece for the LA Times because our friend Justin Shang's over there reporting for the LA Times and reviewing stuff. And Justin was really blunt. He said, I'm just not going to mince words here. Lars von Trier is a stupid, arrogant troll. and it really is. It's just that's what he's been doing for the longest time, and he thinks he's so naughty. Here's the film I'm really looking forward to. It got picked up by Sony Classics before the festival.
Mm.
They screened it last night. Got a 15-minute standing ovation.
Mm.
The third film from Nadine Labaki. Now, Nadine Labaki is the Lebanese filmmaker who has been kind of on the cusp for a number of years. She's just absolutely wonderful. Her first film, which was what was it? What's the name of the first film?
Where do we go now?
No, Where Do We Go Now was the last one. Her first film, which is set in the hair salon in Beirut. What was that called? I'm gonna get it here. It's a food name. It's a food name. Bear with me. Hold on. Anyway, I'll find it here in a moment. Her new film is Capernaum, and it's about a kid who sues his parents for some kind of that takes legal proceedings against his parents of some kind. I know nothing else about it, but it got a 15-minute standing ovation, and she's a Lebanese filmmaker. She's fantastic. She's unbelievably talented. On top of that, she's young and gorgeous. She's got it all going for her, and she's one of only 3 women with a film in the competition. People are now calling this the Palme d'Or front runner, and that would make her only the first woman since Jane Campion to win. And I was there when Jane Campion won, and that was such a momentous moment. People are just it was a co-winner. So if she wins, she'd be the first like straight up solo winner. Caramel.
About the women in that salon.
In the salon.
Yes.
It's such an amazing movie. It's just so beautiful. So anyway, yes. So Nadine Labaki, and she was an actress before too. She's she knows what she's doing. So yes. So she did Carmel, and then Where Do We Go Now? And they are both great.
Yeah, Where Do We Go Now? Anyway, yeah.
And this new one is Capernaum, and apparently it's just phenomenal. And Sony's got it for the for award season later this year, and it's almost certain Oscar nominee. So let's see where it goes. But right now, not having seen the film, but being a huge fan of Nadine Labaki, and I'm a big fan of Arabic language cinema as well.
Oh yeah.
So I think it needs that. It's going to be good for the region. It'll be good for movies. It'll be great for Cannes if she wins, and I cannot wait to see the film. So.
Yeah, Arabic language cinema very often bases its stories around children.
Yeah,
because it's necessary for all sorts of reasons.
It gets you past censors in a lot of those countries too.
And many of those, all the turtles Can Fly, and all these beautiful films, and many of them starred all these wonderful children. They're so poignant and so
Yeah.
sweet. Of course, also out of Spike Lee's film,
Yes,
Black
Black
Klansman.
Klansman, which sounds really interesting.
Well, the trailer, I popped on and looked at
Because
loosely based on a true story.
I knew nothing what it was about. Yeah.
Loosely based on a true story, something that happened in the, I guess, maybe late 70s. I think it was literally 1979.
Yeah.
This black cop went undercover on the phone as a white guy who wanted to join the Klan, David Duke's Klan. I remember, and David Duke was a guy when I was growing up. David Duke down there ran for the Senate and all that stuff. But whenever he had to actually appear in person, he had another white cop actually do all the person. But he played, and I'm looking at this trailer, and this is just cracking me up. It's killing me.
It's a great idea.
The guys there in the afro
story,
and Denzel Washington's son.
Yeah,
is playing that lead there, which is a sort of interesting sort of thing too, and Adam Driver, of course, and it just seems very, very funny. And I imagine it gets all the point. And then, of course, Spike had his little moment where he went on his tirade there. And again, that's the thing. Just like Lars, right? What did you expect when you put that microphone in front of him? Of course he is.
Well, here's the thing about Can, too. Spike and Lars are the only two people who have ever thrown a tantrum at Can for not winning the Palme d'Or, declaring that they would not come back because they didn't get the award that they deserved. Now, and I can't remember what it was with Spike. I can't remember what film it was. 48 Hours or
25th Hour.
25th Hour, I think it might have been something like that. And with Lars, I can't remember what it was. But the
Dancer in the Dark.
It might have been. Dancer in the Dark was the one that won it.
That's the one that won. Yeah,
that's the one that won it. Yeah. So in any case, they're the only two that threw tantrums for awards that they thought they deserved. Now, here's the thing. Can has been for the better part of its history, which is now, gosh, what are we on, 70 years or something of Can. Can is, it's a showcase. It's where starlets go and take their clothes off on the beach and they are mobbed by paparazzi.
Yeah.
It's where people say and do outrageous things just to get attention because the eyes of Europe are there. And
it's Fellini's 8.5. It's
boom,
Fellini's,
there it is. Yeah. So people do and say crazy things because they know it's good PR while they're there. Case in point, Lars did his dumb thing. He made his stupid movie that people hate, and I guess he got publicity out of it. Spike put a microphone in front of that man's face.
Yep.
He's going to use it, and he knows how. But you know who took the cake yesterday?
Yeah.
Freaking Godard. Okay, who is in competition, is the oldest person in competition in history. He's 80-something now. And the film apparently is another one of these free-form...
praise of love.
He just took a bunch of footage that he shot and others had shot and stuff he'd taped off the news and what knows. And he just threw a bunch of music down on some tracks and just cut a bunch of random images. And people are supposed to sit there for 2 hours and try to make sense of it. It's all just free-form, stream of consciousness nonsense. Do you know how he conducted the press conference?
What is back to them? Vive la vie.
Worse. By a phone.
Oh, really?
They put a cell phone on a table, and there is Godard's little face on the tiny phone talking to the room full of press.
What a dick.
Come on.
Because
what's funny? A friend of mine posted that on Facebook, and all he put, his only comment over the post was, turd.
He was kind of mean to Anais.
Yes.
And what the boy she made the documentary with, the Faces Places documentary.
Yeah.
And he was kind of mean to them. He was kind of mean to the boy anyway.
Yeah.
And she sort of said
JR.
And he was disappointed. That's never meet your heroes kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've been a fan. Like clinging to a bit of fandom, probably unreasonably with respect to Jean-Luc, but. I guess you get to be a certain age, it can go one way or the other, and for him it went ugly.
It's madness. Yeah. Well, anyway, so we've rambled here. Let me, I'm gonna hit off a few things that we've gotten from Naxos, and we've got some other really, really cool music titles too. Naxos gave us a whole bunch of really sensational classic music stuff. This is an Opus Arte DVD collection box set, An Evening with the Royal Ballet and the Royal Opera. This is wonderful. If you're a fan of ballet and a fan of opera, a fan of opera, you're going to love this. There are highlights here from everything. This is just a potpourri. It's all the greatest hit stuff. So you'll just love this. I mean, La Traviata and Don Giovanni and Falstaff and Hansel and Gretel. And then on the Royal Ballet, you got Swan Lake and the Nutcracker and Romeo and Juliet and tons of other great stuff. It's really, really wonderful. I wouldn't recommend anybody just sit there and watch this top to bottom, but it's just fun classical music stuff to put in the background. Piano Crazy, ein Film from Jan O'Meyer. This is from the Husum Piano Festival 2016. And it is a German import, and it is just absolutely, it's 45 minutes. It's short. It's a DVD, and it's just wonderful piano work. If you're a piano aficionado, you'll not want this necessarily for the music, but for the performers, which is the main performer here is Jonathan Plowright, who again I'm not that familiar with, but just beautiful craft. This I found to be really, really interesting. This is a Blu-ray, Ingmar Bergman Through the Choreographer's Eye. This is these are Swedish choreographers, 4 of them specifically: Alexander Ekman, Per Isberg, Pontus Lindberg, and Joachim Steffensen, they've created dance performances to honor Ingmar Bergman. They're sort of doing an interpretation of Bergman through dance, which is really interesting. It's a lot more interesting than I think it probably sounds. If you know Bergman's films,
which are very thematic,
like if you know Autumn Sonata, you'll see that there's a ballet that is basically like an Autumn Sonata ballet. It's an interpretation of Autumn Sonata through ballet. It's fascinating, and it funnels all of those themes that in his movies are primarily cinematic. It funnels them into interpretive dance, which is really, really interesting. This is a Blu-ray. And it's just absolutely beautiful. I was so much more intrigued after watching it than just by reading the synopsis. Christian Thielemann, who's a terrific conductor with the Staatskapelle Dresden in Germany, conducts Bruckner Symphony 1 on this Unitel and C major Blu-ray. Beautiful performance. I was listening to a lot of Bruckner on the radio last week, and they were telling a lot of stuff about his life, and wow, is that interesting stuff. So Bruckner Symphony 1. The Royal Opera and Mozart's Così fan tutte on another Opus Arte, Royal Opera House, with Corinne Winters, Angela Brower, Daniel Beal. This is directed by Jan Philip Gloger. That's beautiful if you like Così fan tutte. I'm not a huge fan, but I get it. Let's see. This is also really cool. If you're a fan of Aaron Copland, Copland conducts Copland, Benny Goodman, and the Los Angeles Philharmonic. This is a Naxos from Naxos, and really, really wonderful. This was made in 1976, and it performed at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion right downtown here in Los Angeles, which I've been to many, many times, along with the Los Angeles Master Chorale and Roger Wagner, who was the conductor at the time. This is not Benny Goodman like old school Benny Goodman.
Yeah.
Hey, no. This is a clarinetist named Benny Goodman, and they performed the fanfare for the Common Man, El Salón Mexico, and the Clarinet Concerto, which is where Benny Goodman does his amazing work. And there's also Hoedown from Rodeo, Suite from Tenderland. Really lovely. Copland conducting Copland here in Los Angeles in 1976. Beautiful. That's on a Blu-ray. Then we also have Le Coq d'Or, otherwise known as the Golden Cockerel by Rimsky-Korsakov. That's also a Blu-ray with the La Monnaie Symphony Orchestra and Chorus, conducted by Alan Altinoglu, who I believe is Romanian. That's from Bel Air. Didn't really get to watch a whole lot of that because we had to do the show. And then here are the two that are super, super cool. This one is a CD box set, but it happens to have a bonus DVD included, which is why we're mentioning it here. Olivier Messiaen, the famous French composer, and Catalogue d'Oiseaux with Pierre-Laurent Aimard. It's quite beautiful. Aimard is one of the best pianists in the world, and this is all just really, really wonderful, romantic French piano work. It's a 3 CD set with a DVD and a lot of liner note information. Beautiful music. Here's the mama of all mamas. This is something that classical music fans are going to want to go nuts for. It's DVD, not Blu-ray. It's a box set. Belcanto, the tenors of the 78 era. Back when the only way to listen to opera was on a 78 record. Okay, this is pre-33, pre-45. This is back, like 1914 or whatever. when records first came around. People were listening to them on those,
With the big
gramophones,
thing, yeah.
the big horn. Um, that was when people first discovered opera, because otherwise, if you didn't go to an opera house, you were never going to hear it. And all of these great tenors were able to suddenly enable people all over the world to hear their voices.
Enrico Caruso being at the top of
Caruso
them, yeah.
being right at the top of the list. And there were others too from all over the world. Caruso is the anchor of this. This is an amazing box set. There's part 1, part 2. There's bonus. There's just a sound. There's booklets in here. This is just a wonderful, wonderful collection. But there are others: John McCormack, Joseph Schmidt, Jussi Björling, Beniamino Gigli, Helge Rosvenga. I mean, the names that I never even heard of, but the voices are so beautiful. The recordings are rough. This is a raw recording era. There's a lot of background noise, and it's tinny and staticky at times. The recordings are very uneven, but it is beautiful. So well worth picking this up. This is this is essentially, I should point out, this isn't just, there's a lot of new footage in here too. This is kind of a it's an extensive documentary chronicle of these guys and their work, but
not just
it's not just a bunch of audio and thrown onto DVDs. This is looking at this era and recompiling it in a really fascinating way. And it goes all the way from, about World War I into the 1930s. So once you're in the 30s, the sound starts to really pick up. You get better technology. But it's absolutely beautiful. It's just wonderful. Yeah. Belcanto, the tenors of the 78 era. It's
more
beautiful.
or less the beginning of professionally recorded music. Not long before that.
Yeah.
The late 1890s or so. Cutting into those wax discs and whatnot, and fast forwarding in terms of music and music documentary, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In concert here. This is a neat one. This one aggregates highlight performances from the 2014, 15, 16, and 17 induction ceremonies.
Nice.
At the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which was a pretty neat year. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they just had the 2018. I think John Bon Jovi was like the main sort of,
so weird to me, Bon Jovi.
Yeah,
I feel
Rock and Roll
old.
Hall of Fame, like, hey, man. And I think Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Sister Rosetta, you know what that is?
No.
Sister Rosetta Tharpe, black woman, gospel music, 30s, 40s, and 50s, right?
Yeah.
Sister Rosetta Tharpe played a Les Paul Gibson like a bat out of hell. I mean, could eat B.B. King alive, Howlin' Wolf, all the great guitar players. Look up Sister Rosetta, just look her playing, and sang while she played, but played that Gibson like a bat out of hell. I'm telling you, it's just
gospel and
guitar. Gospel and guitar. She was about, the sister was about 50 or 60. Big woman, big mama. Just you never seen anything like it.
But after the show, I'm gonna YouTube it.
She's
I'm
in the
gonna
Rock and
YouTube
Roll
it.
Hall of
That's
Fame.
great.
This is a bunch of great performances on this. Bruce Springsteen performed with the E Street Band. Pearl Jam performed. The surviving members of Nirvana performed with Lord. Actually, I guess that would be the surviving members of Pearl Jam, because some of those guys are gone now too. Cat Stevens. So it was a really, really neat several years, all captured together here on this Blu-ray, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in concert. You want me to do more?
Let me.
I forgot about that guy.
Yeah, let me hit some of these real quickly too. We got some really, really other great stuff here it's all Ed Sullivan Show stuff. The first two here are Motown on the Ed Sullivan Show, the best of the Supremes on the Ed Sullivan Show, and the best of the Temptations on the Ed Sullivan Show. Terrific, absolutely terrific. I didn't realize that. Honestly, I didn't realize the Temptations were ever on the Ed Sullivan Show. All I ever knew was the Beatles. That's it. That's like that. People play like the only time Ed Sullivan ever had music on the show was when the Beatles made their American debut. Temptations are terrific, just so good. And I still think, by the way, the TV movie of the Temptations is maybe the best made for TV movie in history. It's just such a great story, such a great movie. And then the Supremes just absolutely killed it. Diana was, at her very level best. This is wonderful stuff. And then we get a whole lot of Elvis, which is the other Ed Sullivan thing. And the thing with Ed Sullivan and Elvis was that they had to shoot him above the waist because he was gyrating in a way that was not appropriate for the youngins. So we got Elvis, the great performances, 40 songs on 2 DVDs, 3 hours of Elvis on Ed Sullivan. The complete Ed Sullivan shows starring Elvis, which is the like all of everything that he ever did on the show, the complete shows, which includes everything. And then we get just Elvis, all his Ed Sullivan show performances. So there's a lot of overlap between these. I got confused as to what was and wasn't on which disc. I'm going to urge you to do a little bit of research into this. Just make sure you understand that there are 3 different titles here. Just Elvis, all his Ed Sullivan show performances. Elvis, the great performances, which is not complete shows. This is 40 songs and 2 DVDs, and just a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff that was not on necessarily on the Ed Sullivan show. There's a lot of other stuff, interviews with Jerry Lee Lewis and stuff like that. And then the 3 complete Ed Sullivan shows that had Elvis on them. So those are the 3. And then lastly, as we were saying, the 4 complete Ed Sullivan shows starring the Beatles and other artists, including the original commercials. Which is a lot of fun. I enjoyed the commercials more than I enjoyed the Beatles. It was a riot because, no, word from our sponsor. If you liked it. Oh, it's hysterical. It's really, really funny. But there's a lot of really great stuff in here. There's even some bonus material where there's an interview of Ed Sullivan interviewing the Beatles before Hard Day's Night in 1964, which is really fascinating. And what I really enjoyed was some of the other stuff that's non-Beatles related, like Davy Jones and the original cast of Oliver. I didn't know Davy Jones was part of the original cast of Oliver.
I did not know that.
On Broadway.
Yeah, I mean, I think of Davy, I think of the Monkees, which is like the fake Beatles.
Yeah, Davy Jones, Broadway, Oliver.
Go
figure. I didn't know
fantastic,
that. Cab Calloway, Mitzi Gaynor, Georgia Brown, Soupy Sales. It's a lot of fun. But here's the other thing that jumped out at me here. When the Beatles came on to Ed Sullivan February 9th, 1964, 73 million people watched that show. 73 million people.
1964, we were a nation with, I think, 3 major networks. I think the DuPont network had already gone away, if I'm not mistaken. 3 major networks.
That is effectively half the country.
Yeah, I was going to say, given the population of the country at the time,
half the country,
100 million fewer people.
Now, flash forward to all of the stuff that we have going on right now. I mean, there is so much product out there, and networks, and cable, and streaming, and things that you can do with your DVDs and your Blu-rays, and there's a lot going on. Back then, it was TV, like 3 networks and a movie that might be playing down at the one-screen theater. Everything we got going on today. Cobra Kai and 20 million people.
Yeah, Cobra Kai.
Are you kidding me?
It's not a reboot. It's a continuation.
It's a continuation of Karate Kid.
Of the Karate Kid series, Cobra Kai. With the same with Ralph and.
I thought that was the dumbest idea for a series, and I thought YouTube, you're stupid.
And on
desperate.
YouTube.
YouTube Red.
And there it is. They already ordered a 2nd season.
I can't even.
So I'm over it. You know what?
I am too.
All I'm doing is developing series, dude. I'm going to develop one every 20 minutes and throw it at YouTube.
Yep.
Finishing up on the music side, this wonderful John Mellencamp DVD set, Blu-ray CD set, I should say.
Yeah.
Look, I go back with John Mellencamp to when his name was John Cougar.
Yeah, I remember.
He and I are both Midwest boys. Mr. Mellencamp and I. And the thing that I always thought was interesting about John Mellencamp, right? So, we were coming up, one of the little bands I was in, we would play all these Mellencamp songs, right? The 80s ones, Cherry Bomb, Pink Houses, Jack and Diane, all of those songs, right? And sometimes we'd play these sets at, places that were, kind of black.
Yeah.
and they'd be like, dude, what are you guys playing these? I'm like, listen to the words of the song, dude. Listen to the words of these songs. John Cougar is with us, Holmes.
Yeah.
He's down with the people. And he always really was. But we associated sort of country rock. No, John Cougar was always something of a bit of a socialist, and a lot of that comes through. This is a spoken word kind of thing where he's playing music and talking and doling out little nuggets of wisdom, doing his thing. Because he's clocking 70 now. Middle 60s anyway.
He directed a movie.
He directed a movie some years ago, back in the day. He really is an activist and a sort of social commentator. He's an interesting guy.
He's a Renaissance man of a certain era.
Of a certain era.
Yeah.
And people have gotten him wrong. Look at some of his videos. I dare you to chalk up the video for Cherry Bomb. And I wonder if people will notice a couple of things about it. For one thing, if you look closely at that video all the way through, you're going to find Joey from Friends.
Yeah.
All right? Joey from Friends is in
Interesting.
that video. And more importantly, if you look really, I'm sorry, that's, what's his name? That's the, oh, he passed away not too long ago. His name will come to me in a second. But if you look at that Cherry Bomb video, the way that video is constructed, John Cougar is singing, but the video is all actually playing out behind him, right? With that little couple in that place, the little interracial couple.
Yeah, that's right.
It was from like 1980, whatever. That's John Cougar. So anyway, this is pretty neat. The words and wisdom and singing of John Cougar. Lots of neat guests show up for the concert, including Carlene Carter and a few other folks. They sing all the classic songs and a few more: Troubled Man, Minutes to Memory, Small Town. You name it, they knock them all out. John Mellencamp, he's fantastic. He's a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes, he is. So let's hit some docs. We got a little pile of docs here that's good to go through. We got some PBS stuff and some other stuff. So first up, just want to throw out this Going Clear: Scientology and the Prison of Belief. This got a whole bunch of Emmy awards in 2015. A lot of people love this thing. It is, I will say this, it's a very, very well-made documentary, and there are even people in here that I know, like Jason Begay, who I was in Jordan with last year.
Yeah.
From Chicago PD. Fantastic guy. I mean, I love Jason. It was just a good time. And he was one of the first to kind of exit Scientology at the time.
Oh, yeah. I love to hear him talk about Scientology.
It's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
We had it with him.
He cuts it to pieces.
Now, I am not a big fan of sort of attacking any faith system, however sort of fringy it might be. So that's not something I personally do. I kind of, to each his own. Everybody do your thing, whatever makes you happy. But that said, as a documentary, this is extremely well done. It is very interesting, and because they actually have people who came out of it speaking about it, there is an authenticity to it.
It is very frank. They simply speak to what they experienced.
And Alex Gibney is no slouch. He is not a propagandist. He's a real documentarian.
He's not Michael Moore.
He's not Michael Moore. He really goes to great lengths to be as even-handed as possible, and it still has a point of view, but it's a good doc. So I do have to recommend it. And then also want to put a little shout out for Finding Oscar, which came from the Kennedy Marshall Company and the USC Shoah Foundation. This is an absolutely wonderful doc. It was at a number of festivals, including Telluride, and it deals with the Guatemalan Civil War and this one young boy who survived it and was raised by a soldier that was responsible for basically killing his family. It's an unbelievable story. Full disclosure, I have a vested interest in this. The co-producer and editor of this was Martin Singer, who was a very, very good friend. I was a little boy who was just about my daughter's age. I've known Martin for years and years and years and years. Wonderful guy, amazing editor, and he was so proud of this, and we're so proud of him. Finding Oscar, beautiful, beautiful movie.
I got a couple over here, PBS, Blu-rays, Sex, Lies, and Butterflies. This was wonderful. I saw this when it was actually on. For one thing, there has been a sort of horrible butterfly die-off in recent years. It almost rivals that bumblebee die-off they had, that they associated. It's very, very strange, and it's not like it was. Certainly, the existence of butterflies just everywhere in the spring and summer, like when we were children, when I was children growing up in the Midwest, I mean, butterflies were this thing, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that sort of went away. Anyway, this wonderful little film explores the life of butterflies. Over 20,000 different species inhabit the globe in butterflies. You find stuff out like that in this neat thing. And they use this very particular little micro photography, macro photography, I should say, so they can just zoom in so close, and it's ultra high speed so that you can see the wings flapping. It's just really, really astounding stuff. Narrated by Paul Giamatti. It's really neat, and I think it's the kind of thing that certainly when I was a kid, I would have loved this. I loved this kind of stuff when I was coming up. So I recommend it for everybody, but I recommend that you show it to your kids and get them interested in butterflies. That whole little process, egg, caterpillar, chrysalis, but I remember that whole thing. That whole thing still blows me away.
It's unique in all of nature.
It's
a great metaphor too.
That pattern there. Prediction by the Numbers, another neat one from PBS's Nova series. with the power of computers that are able to analyze numbers and run algorithms and everything today to figure out what these numbers mean in at casinos and in
Yeah.
baseball and in everything. Almost everything has a statistical number of its likeliness connected to it. And that's what this doc is about. It's about how numbers and prediction and powerful computers are coming together to allow us to almost predict the future. It's really, really, really interesting. What's most interesting about it is how good we can be at this,
Yeah.
and then how wrong it can be.
You know, there's a big old long piece. How old is Henry Kissinger now?
Got to be 80, middle 80s, if not
Not yet 90?
Maybe 90.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Henry Kissinger, dude's sharp, man.
Yeah.
He's not just playing golf and drooling on himself. He wrote a big old long piece in the Atlantic about the threat of AI and how we aren't really thinking through the way we use artificial intelligence because it can't make certain value judgments and it can't sort of assess the intangibles that are part of human experience. It is a huge, fascinating, cautionary article. But basically, I'll save you a lot of time. It whittles down to this. You're screwed. Hal's going to eat you. That's it.
Stephen Hawking, before he died,
You're
had a few warnings about Hal too.
It's all gonna be Hal and Skynet, and we're screwed.
Yeah.
That's it. The Terminators and whatnot.
I watched that episode of Star Trek Next Generation last night. The one very early on in the series where Data is challenged as to whether or not he's actually. And they want to take him apart. They got to
right.
And I love that they cleaned that up really early in the series.
Yeah, I agree. So here's what I want to do. I want to get the Apple Siri deal. You know, their little your little internet thing Siri, the standalone Siri. I want to get Siri sitting there right next to the Google thing, right next to Alexa.
Yeah.
And I want to get them talking to each other and giving each other commands so that it becomes a total loop and never stops. I want to see where that goes. A friend of ours said, "Don't do that. That's how Skynet happens." And I'm like, I want to see if I could do that. I want to see if I could get Siri saying, "Alexa, what time does Google have?" Google,
Cortana.
Ask Google, ask Alexa, ask Siri, ask Google, ask Alexa, ask Siri, ask Google. I want to see if I can get that somehow going in a loop.
I'd like to see if you can get them to disagree. on whatever time it is with the temperatures. And no.
So come home one day, they're all arguing.
No, it is not.
Come home the next day, they're making threats. I got a couple here from a couple of World War II. Great Escape at Dunkirk, which is part of Nova. And
on the heels of the year with all the wonderful Dunkirk movies.
A ton of Dunkirk movies. Excuse me.
Oh, Tom Petty. Anyway,
Tom Petty. Yeah,
that's from a thought from about 5 minutes ago. Never mind.
Caught up with yourself.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is interesting because this involves they went to. This isn't just sort of rehashing known history. There are a lot of formerly sealed and classified files that the UK government only recently released, and which changes a lot of the stuff about what happened at Dunkirk. And there's a lot of stuff that isn't very flattering about how the British handled it. There's a lot of sloppy stuff. The Air Force screwed up, and there's a lot of stuff that undermines the mythical miracle of Dunkirk. And it's really interesting. They even there's a Spitfire, a crashed Spitfire. They go and they excavate that site where the crash was. It's really, really interesting revisiting this. It's not just old history. They actually make it fresh again. It's a terrific episode. And then Naples 44, narrated by Benedict Cumberbatch, directed by Francesco Paterno. Naples the history of Naples is a legendary one in World War II. The American Fifth Army arrived in Naples in 1943 after invading at Anzio, and Patton was part of all that, and that was part of the push from the south part of Europe coming up into Europe. That was sort of the other part of the invasion, other than D-Day. And we don't often talk about enough about that, but this is a really, really interesting documentary, and it centers primarily on Norman Lewis, a British officer in 1943 who was there with the American Fifth Army and wrote down a rather extensive diary of all of these events. And so that in voiceover is folded over a lot of footage that is like archival war footage, and then even movie clips from movies of the era from the 50s and 60s. and it all comes together in a really, really interesting kind of collage. It's quite extraordinary. It really is. It's very, very powerful. It really contextualizes the era in a very meaningful way.
Mm. I've got a couple.
All right.
One, which was executive produced, reported by, narrated by, and stars Ann Curry. Ann Curry, whom we know, of course, as related to some of the crazy things that went on over. Where was that? Was that NBC?
Yes,
And Matt
NBC
Lauer
and
and
Matt
all that
Lauer
kind
and
of
all that
stuff.
stuff.
And
She got screwed. I was so
oh yeah,
mad. I
yeah.
never watched the show after she was gone.
It was
Stopped watching.
for one thing, she's an extraordinary reporter,
Yep.
as is evident in this wonderful PBS documentary called "We'll Meet Again." What this basically does is find people who came together in extraordinary circumstances, almost always many years ago, but some more recent. Had these extremely intense encounters very often where they became friends, very often where one saved the other or they saved each other. And then, of course, they were separated by time and space and have been for many years, yet they never lost a desire to reconnect with that person who engaged in this sort of life-changing event with them. One of them, children of World War II, a Japanese-American woman who was sent to an internment camp as a child, hopes to find a school friend who stood up for her. When she was ripped away from the bosom of the community, it's just an amazing thing. Rescued from Mount St. Helens, a woman named Mindy searches for the scientist's family to tell them how they saved her life when Mount St. Helens exploded back in 1980. This is interesting, given that the over in Hawaii, Kilauea is going nuts right now.
And Vesuvius is a part of the Naples doc.
As a part of it's really an interesting thing. I was in 1980, Mount St. Helens. I was still in the Air Force when that went off, and we were flying recon missions. Excuse me, in AWACS jets over the Northwest to measure the height of that cloud. It was an interesting period. Heroes of 9/11, same thing. Patrick searches for a stranger who comforted him during the disaster. It's just a beautiful moment. Freedom Summer goes all the way back to a young woman who encountered a lot of racism at that point, but she found a friend named Sherry who protected her during that summer. Coming out, that one's about a young man who came out and a friend. So each one of these stories are about people who found support in extremely tragic circumstances or difficult circumstances from somebody else. It's just a wonderful documentary from PBS, executive produced by Ann Curry. Really neat. The Day the Dinosaurs Died, also from PBS's Nova series. This is fantastic. 66 million years ago, a gigantic asteroid collided with the Earth, 7 miles wide. This we know. We think that asteroid probably began the death knell for the dinosaurs. Probably.
Do we know it was not a spaceship?
Unless the spaceship was inside the asteroid, which, of course, they will do that.
Yeah.
But these guys, this is fantastic because they've gone back and with technology we have today, we can look and we can literally say that's a chunk of that asteroid from 66 million years ago. They can actually do that sort of.
Incredible.
It's incredible, and they're starting to figure out exactly what happened. What's interesting about this doc is there is as much relevant stuff in New Jersey, like at the Turnpike, with respect to that, as there is in Patagonia.
That's amazing.
So they're digging a hole, to build a tunnel under the Turnpike, and they find stuff that's relevant to the science, and they're in Patagonia, and they find so neat stuff there. I watched this when it was on Army in America: The Untold Story, The Untold History of U.S. Gun Culture. This basically is a neat sort of historical documentary. It is supported by the NRA, so it has a particular point of view.
Their point of view.
It has that point of view, but it's also just sort of factual information about the people, the men mostly, who began the gun culture in America. Samuel Colt, Oliver Winchester, Remington, Horace Smith, and Daniel Wesson. These are the people. Lots of guns in here. They go out and create some scenes and whatnot, and then they have some historical footage, and they go into all of the military hardware, and it just sort of speaks to. Look, the very front of this is red, white, and blue, and it has a guy in a sort of Civil War, not Civil War, but American Revolution outfit. So they're making a very particular connection between arms and the American Revolution and the freedom of America. So there's a point of view here, but there's all a fact and history too. So, what are you going to
do? A bunch of really interesting kind of fringy docs. Divine Divas from Film Rise is all about. I don't want to call them drag queens because we associate drag queens as a very specific kind of
Yeah,
performance
that sort
art
of
in America.
RuPaul-y sort of performance, but yeah.
It's just super glam and super ostentatious and gaudy, and that's not quite what it was in the 1960s in Brazil. In Brazil, it was a much more serious thing. These are transvestites,
Yeah.
and they are performing, but they're not doing that really gaudy American thing that has kind of become sort of high camp.
Yeah.
This is quite serious, and it's a really interesting history of that. Divine Divas by Leandro Leal. And then we also have It's Not Yet Dark, which is unbelievably inspiring. Colin Farrell narrates this story, which is sort of like a My Left Foot story, except it's not about an artist. This is about a filmmaker. And Simon Fitzmaurice is an Irish filmmaker who has Lou Gehrig's disease and is basically directing a film, which wound up being the 2015 film My Name Is Emily, which I've heard of. I have not seen it. Leslie Mann, sorry, not Leslie Mann, Leslie McKim and Catherine Kennedy produced this, and it's really really extraordinarily powerful. It even involves like how he uses his eyes, and there's a technology.
At the end of the day, it's really sort of a love story.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
it's just incredible. Extraordinary Ordinary People is a first run features doc, which is exactly what it says. It just covers all of these really interesting and different people from all these different backgrounds and nationalities and walks of life, and it winds up being sort of a tapestry of people who are all brought together exclusively through the National Endowment for the Arts, and how that sort of represents this nexus of sort of just extraordinary achievement that doesn't really look at where you come from or what kind of person you are, just looks purely at the achievement and the individual artist that created it. It's quite inspiring as well. And then The Secret Life of Lance Letcher, Letscher. This is directed by Sandra Adair. And I was not familiar with Lance Letcher. Artist documentaries kind of go far and wide these days. And he apparently is this guy from Austin who does collage work. And it's really complex and intricate and fascinating collage work. And this is just a look at his life and his work and his inspiration and his process. And it's a little bit unfocused at times. It kind of goes far and wide to try to keep wrap its arms around everything. But it's if you like artist documentaries, it's so fascinating. It's such an interesting look at his work.
it could be so cool. I remember this 1991 documentary, Doris Day: A Sentimental Journey. I remember this from 1991, actually. And it really, really is a wonderful documentary. Legendary singer and actress Doris Day, who entered the business in the 1940s. I think Michael Curtiz, gave her the first part in the film. And this doc simply just walks through her absolutely extraordinary, kind of exciting, interesting life. Doris Day had a little interesting moment where she was hanging out with Sly Stone, in like the late 70s.
I can totally see that,
and I could see it too, frankly, because Doris Day was fine as hell.
Yeah,
we had a really interesting moment with Doris Day a couple of years ago.
The
LAFCA thing, with the whole thing and with the Skype. And it's an impossible moment to actually describe. So I won't even try. But it's neat. Bonus features here include a 1976 interview with Doris on the Merv Griffin Show, an episode of the Doris Day Show, which I love. It still comes on the Decades channel 2.2. Those shows, the colors are so rich and saturated because they were using that film vision process back in the late 60s.
Yeah,
all those reds and greens and blues. Dude, I can just watch all that. A Family Affair. All of those little the colors are just amazing. Plus, there is a 1968 collection of Doris Day movie trailers. Neat stuff. Doris Day: A Sentimental Journey. Spying on the Royals is a neat show, a neat series, more or less, about the Edward VII and Wallace Simpson.
That whole
mess that went down there, which is so interesting because as we sit here now,
yeah.
I think about now, they're married now. Are they married now?
Would
they
be
married now?
Was it today?
I mean, because it's several hours ahead.
Yeah.
So maybe it's later tonight. I don't know
Well,
exactly, but if they're not married now, they will be in a couple of hours. Of course, we're talking about Harry and Meghan.
yeah.
When I got married years ago, the day 2 days before we got married, Diana and Charles got married.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the coolest thing,
Yeah.
So like you having that.
I remember it well.
It was the most wonderful thing. Anyway, this is about the secret files that shed new light on their whole sort of scandalous romance. A romance now that wouldn't be scandalous at all, and nobody would need to spy on it.
Nobody would care.
Yeah.
You remember when Prince Andrew was dating Kusark, the porn star? That kind of opened the floodgates, and I think nobody cares. I got a couple here from Icarus. They are timed to coincide with what is recently the 200th anniversary of Karl Marx's birth. Which
that's important.
Well, here's the thing. It's everyone's getting a little bit whitewashy about Karl Marx.
Yeah.
Like, forget about how many countries murdered their citizens in his name, and forget about all the things that he wrote about race and women, which are horrible, by the way. Everyone likes trying to pretend like, no, he just loved poor people. Yeah, and he hated black people, and he hated Jews, even though he was a Jew. And
Karl Marx was a dick.
He hated women. And he was a dick.
And worse, he was wrong.
And
it's even worse. He was a dick, and he was incorrect.
In any case, these are nonetheless interesting, although biased. But there is interesting material in here. Now, Marx Reloaded by Jason Barker is kind of straight up propaganda. It's just kind of trying to whitewash him, and he even has little cartoons that are quite silly. Cannot necessarily recommend this. The short film Marx for Beginners is not that. But the 6-part Ilan Ziv series, Capitalism, is a little bit more interesting and a little bit more fair. It gets capitalism like Michael Moore. It gets it wrong. It doesn't really, I had some pretty great professors, economics professors at UCLA, and so I have a bit of a background in this, and it gets it completely wrong on many levels. However, episode 1 on Adam Smith and episode 5, Keynes versus Hayek, have some interesting things in there. Friedrich Hayek, of course, was the foil to John Maynard Keynes back in the 1930s.
Chicago School.
Friedman, yeah. So that gets into a lot of interesting stuff. They interview a lot of people who have no business actually saying anything here, but nonetheless, there is some interesting information that should be a launching point for further information and study and discovery. So there's that. All right. Now we're going to get into the good stuff.
New movies.
We've taken long enough. But first, I'm going to talk about 3 new 4Ks, 2 of which we got to give away for people. Paramount continues to be absolutely awesome these days. We are going to give away 2 copies apiece. 2 copies apiece of a 4K Ultra HD of Braveheart and Gladiator.
We ought to call this the Manly Movie Giveaway.
This is the Manly Movie Giveaway. Get us an email. No later than the 25th, Friday the 25th. Make sure it's date stamped then. And just put Braveheart in the subject line of one, or put Gladiator in the subject line of the other. Very simple, the title of the movie. Send it to gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com, and include your name and address in the body of the email. And over the weekend, we will select 4 very lucky people, 2 apiece for Braveheart and Gladiator, to receive these 4K Ultra HD releases. Let me just say this. These are amazing, amazing 4Ks. It's like watching the movie all over again. It's absolutely stunning, especially Gladiator. Braveheart, I'm less fond of Braveheart these days as a movie. I kind of see the seams in it. I kind of start to see some of his dumb sense of humor and some of the things that Mel did then that we weren't fully keen to. I think everyone wanted him to succeed.
Now movies eventually become things that existed within the context of a canon.
Yeah.
And we saw these movies day one back in the day.
Yeah.
And now I cannot help but look at them in the context of a canon.
That's true.
And then all I can really do is move it around in the canon and figure out where it goes. It's no Passion of Christ.
True. Gladiator, though, let me say, getting back to Russell Crowe, who we were talking about earlier. So I did the press day for Gladiator. And they had a SAG press line that Crowe had to make that evening, like right after the press day. They had to move him right on over to the SAG red carpet. And so they combined 2 rooms. The other table, they're like, we can't have him go through 2 more rooms. You know, we got to push it. So here we are in our room with our table, and like 15 people come in, and we all pack around this table because we got one more table to do with Russell Crowe. And what does Russ do? He spends twice as long in the room and drives the publicists crazy. Because he didn't want to do the SAG press line. He blew it off.
Yeah.
He blew it off. And you could see them. They're coming in. They're checking their watches. They're tapping him on the shoulder. He's giving them dirty looks like, I don't care. I'm Russell Crowe. And I'm going to do what I want. And here's the thing. I've only ever seen 3 people completely take over a room. And Russell Crowe is one of them. Schwarzenegger and Will Smith are the other 2. And they all do it in a different way.
Yeah.
Will Smith comes in, and he's your buddy. He's your best friend. He's known you forever. He puts his hand on your shoulder, on your elbow. He laughs. He joshes with you. He is the sweetest guy. You've known him your whole life. He's the nicest man on the earth. Schwarzenegger comes in, and he's intimidating, but he's jokey.
Yeah.
He makes fun of you, but in a really fun way. He's like we're buddies from the gym. Or you're not working hard enough, you girly man, right? It's that kind of stuff. Russell Crowe comes in, and he is just mean. He just hate loves everybody in the room, and eventually he is so cruel to you that Stockholm syndrome sets in, and you just think, I just want you to abuse me forever. Just keep abusing me, keep insulting me, keep being mean and cruel and horrible to me, and it eventually becomes very funny. But he's so intimidating. He walks in, and he just hate loves the room. That's it. It's all about hate love.
Will Smith. Super quick.
Yeah.
I'm interviewing Will Smith for a movie called 7 Pounds.
Nicest guy in the world, right?
Wonderful. And I've talked to Will 100 times by then anyway. He's a nice guy. So we sit down with Will. I say, Will, my mama told me that she talked to you yesterday in St. Louis. In the mall. My mom lives in St. Louis. You know, I'm like, she told me to tell you, hey. Anyway, I know she's just tripping, but, I just wanted to, my mom told me, she says, your mama's name Elma? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I talked to her yesterday in St. Louis. I was in St. Louis in this mall doing a thing. I read it to your mama. She told me that I was going to be talking to you today. And so anyway, hey. And I'm like, this is just absolutely bizarre. But he actually knew my mom's name and had talked to her the previous day.
That's why he's great.
That's why he's Will Smith.
Gladiator and Braveheart, 2 of the best 4Ks you will see out there. And here's another one I'm going to recommend high, is Fox's release of Die Hard, 30th anniversary on 4K. Looks fantastic. All these things have it's all the original extras. There's nothing new here particularly other than the 4K transfer. So it's the same, commentaries and featurettes and all that stuff's the same. If you have these, you're double dipping exclusively for the new transfer of the film in 4K. And Die Hard, my gosh, what audio this thing has. It just kicks and screams and yippee-ki-yay all over the place. So that everybody understands, Paramount is still with Ultraviolet. So you're going to get iTunes and Ultraviolet on the Braveheart and Gladiator. You're going to get Movies Anywhere because of Fox on Die Hard. So as far as your digital goes, we're not all entirely on Movies Anywhere. I wish Paramount would get their act together. Come on over. Come on over to Movies Anywhere, please.
Paramount has all kinds of issues.
They got to get onto Movies Anywhere. Everybody else is. Come on, join the game.
Paramount they might not even be a viable movie making company in a couple of years, depending on what happens with guys over there. Knocking off a few newbies. Chris Hemsworth's 12 Strong. Interesting movie about a sort of loosely true story about these soldiers who went into Afghanistan right after 9/11.
Yep.
And they had to convince this Northern Alliance general to help them, take out a whole. The problem was the only way that they could get to where they were going was on horses. Right. As it happens, the character that Chris is playing, based on a real guy, was a Texan and knew a whole lot about horses. Yeah. So he trained up his troop, and they mounted on some horses, and they wanted to battle on horseback. And it's a loosely true story and kind of interesting. And this is a hell of a cast. Wasn't particularly nuts about the movie at the time, but I can see how a lot of people would be. Anyway, 12 Strong. On Blu-ray. All kinds of neat special features here, including the making of The Impossible Mission, 12 Strong, and some commentary tracks and whatnot there. Sally Potter's film, like Sally Potter, usually.
Yeah.
She's
fringy. She's fringy, but yeah.
This one did not quite get me, The Party. It's meant to be a satire. It's a dark satire, that's for sure. It's about a party that's being held. All kinds of people we know there, centering around Timothy Spall, and you have Cillian Murphy, and Kristen Scott Thomas, and then Patricia Clarkson, and Emily Mortimer, and all of these people. And it's interesting because a lot of it is about politics, about British politics, right? Somebody has just been elected to the House of Commons or something like that, and they're there to celebrate that. While at the same time, all kinds of relationships things are going on. But it's the politics that they talk about that got kind of interesting. They talk about the British healthcare system.
Yeah.
And one of the folks in the room is actually quite ill in the context of the story. So neat to a certain extent. Black and white, Sally Potter film, The Party. Special features include a making of the film, an on-set the making of the film.
Very nice.
Where shall we go?
Well, we also have Early Man, the new Nick Park film, his first feature-length film since the Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit movie. And before that was Chicken Run. So this is Nick Park's third feature-length film. I love this. Took my daughter. We had so much fun with this. Early Man is hilarious. As long as you were talking about the dinosaurs earlier, this is all about cavemen in this one little enclave who discover that the Bronze Age is rising up around them.
Yeah.
It's going to intrude on their little Stone Age paradise. And the only way that they can keep the big evil Bronze Age dictator man at bay is by excuse me, is by winning a soccer game, which is the new thing. And it's sort of like the origins of soccer. It's basically Bad News Bears,
Yeah.
except it's soccer in the Bronze Age with cavemen. It's so cute. It's so fun. It's so funny. It's so cleverly done. It's such good stop motion animation, and it has a bunch of great featurettes.
If you had to put it in, if you had to lay it out, and the Chicken Run, how would you lay it out? Where does it fall?
I still think Chicken Run is his best film. I think this is on par with Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's on par. And what he does with stop motion blows my mind. I do not know how he does some of this stuff. It is really, really, CGI. We get it. It's on a computer, and you just do what you want. But when you're dealing with clay and actual physical things, and there's all of this stuff with volcanoes and dinosaurs and balls in the air and in slow motion things and characters slide. It just, I don't know how he does it. It's amazing.
What I like? I like it when you can see the
thumbprints
and the
It's
that's just extraordinary.
It's
to me.
beautiful.
Give me that over
Early Man and some great featurettes. And Nick Park's a really shy guy, so getting him to do these featurettes is quite a feat too.
A couple more newbies here. Desolation. This is a pretty scary film. It's a film about a young woman who has a son, and her husband passes away suddenly, and they're all in distress, and he wants to have his ashes spread out in the woods. So she and her best friend, the son, go out there to do that, and this guy, this really, really scary sort of a guy in glasses, just starts stalking them. And it is just a creepy heck of a Blu-ray, heck of a movie that works pretty damn well, and I can recommend it. What I will not recommend, however, is Jennifer Lawrence's most recent movie, Red Sparrow. Man, this was a big old movie that she wanted to do in a very specific way. It has her first really sort of big sexy scene in it. This movie just did not work at all, which is interesting because her previous movie to this one was Mother, which she did, of course, with Darren Aronofsky, and that movie did not work at all. So Jen is
unfortunate.
She's decided to take a break.
Yeah.
Good move, sis. Take a break. Because bad choice here for a whole bunch of different reasons. Anyway, this is a 4K, Ultra HD, and Blu-ray, 2-disc set, all kinds of special features, which is good because you're going to have way more fun watching and listening to those than you are dealing with this movie.
So if your Movies Anywhere account has a little hole in it and you think, I really need to plug that hole with a stupid movie. I don't want a good movie to add there. I need to add a stupid movie to my Movies Anywhere account. Then I would recommend Daphne and Velma, the original movie from Warner Brothers, which is just the dumbest thing ever. So apparently, before all the Scooby-Doo stuff happened, before we actually had Scooby-Doo, before we had Shaggy, before the gang got together in the Mystery Mobile and all that nonsense, apparently Daphne and Velma were best friends in high school and had to solve this like weird like neo quasi soft zombie phenomenon where kids are disappearing, and it's a whole silly thing. This is just nonsense. It's an attempt to somehow keep exploiting Scooby-Doo as a live action franchise, and it.
I had fun with Sarah Michelle Gellar and Linda
kinda.
Cardellini and what's his name?
Yeah.
Running around in those perfectly ludicrous movies. You know, I have issues with with the animals, with with stuff like that. But Linda Cardellini in a jumpsuit was kind of
I agree.
fabulous,
I loved Linda Cardellini. Well, she's not in this. These are actors I've never heard of.
Yeah.
So I can't recommend this. Sarah Gilman and Sarah Jeffrey. It's just. Dumb.
You know what's funny? It would be way more fun if they had went out and got Sarah Michelle Gellar and Linda Cardellini.
Sure.
I think they're all like 40, 45 now. Freddie Prinze Jr. Yeah. Put them back in that machine. Let them
and then the 1517 to Paris from the director of American Sniper. That's how from the director of American Sniper.
Yeah, as opposed to Clint Eastwood.
Just really, is that where we are? Are we now plugging this for audiences that are so clueless?
I think they're afraid that the younger audience wouldn't know who that is. Yeah.
Anyway. You can put this on your Movies Anywhere account as well. Here's the thing. This is all about those Americans who stopped that terrorist attack on the train in France. The novelty here is one that has been done before on a few occasions. We've had people who play themselves in movies. Jackie Robinson played himself in the Jackie Robinson story.
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, I mean, in The Greatest. Sure,
Yeah.
we've had people who have who played themselves. What's his face? The World War II.
With the Artie with the hooks for hands.
No. The won the
won the Medal of Honor.
Won the Medal of Honor.
For the shooting.
Played himself in a movie. So the three guys actually play themselves in this movie. One of them is really good.
Yeah.
Because he's a media guy now. He hosts a TV show. Another one is fine. And the third guy is terrible at playing himself. Really uneven. That's what detracts a little bit.
And that's why we have acting schools, folks, and actors.
So it's a novelty. Doesn't quite work. But I will tell you this. And even though this is it has a little bit of the Sully problem, that where it's about an event that you can't really conflate into or inflate into a movie. So you have to build a kind of a narrative around it with flashbacks and the backstories and all these people. And the narrative that's built around the event doesn't really justify the buildup. But when you get to the event itself, that 88-year-old Clint Eastwood directs the hell out of it.
He can keep it moving.
Man, it is like if this had just been a short film on the event itself, on the train, I would just say bravo. That is virtuoso filmmaking. It is, I mean... Once he gets there, he just kills it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
One of those kind of things. From the producers of Harry Potter is the way they named this. Anyway, Zoe Saldana, Madison Wolfe, I Kill Giants from producers of Harry Potter. This should have been better than it was, in the same way that Ava DuVernay's Wrinkle in Time should have been better than it was.
Yeah.
But it just not quite come together. It's about a little girl who lives in something of a fantasy world most of the time, and her parents don't get her, and she doesn't have any friends. And in this fantasy world, she does, in fact, kill giants. Anyway, doesn't quite work. Special features to making of I Kill Giants, which is an adaptation of a graphic novel by them.
Got it.
Anyway, what are you going to do?
All right, well, we are done for this week, and we send you off on your own. Have a great time next week, and we'll be back.